Hi guys, this is Hirasaki. This story is all about what if Naruto casted Hiraishin as a combat tool. A few angry words from Neji lead to a great many changes. Hiashi-sama, Naruto bowed once more. I ask you to make a bargain with me. To be with the girl he loves, he makes a bet. The stakes? Only his future and his dream. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard! Chapter 7, Two Lonely Children. Naruto looked over at the pretty girl sitting next to him. For their second date, she had on a white sundress with flowers imprinted on it. He thought she looked really cute. For his part, he had on his leather jacket again with a tan shirt and khaki pants. You don't mind getting ramen with me, do you, Hinata-chan? Naruto asked nervously. I mean, I know it's not as fancy as where we went for our first date, but I really like it here and the ramen they serve can't be beat. And I can actually afford it here. Hinata smiled back at him. I'm happy with wherever you want to go, as long as we're together. Naruto actually blushed a bit and rubbed the back of his head. Here you go, I said cheerfully. 1 shrimp ramen and 1 beef ramen. She set the 2 bowls down in front of Hinata and Naruto. Gave the girl a huge smile of approval. You know, I'm very pleased to finally meet you. Hinata. Naruto has talked about you so much I almost feel like I know you. Naruto-kun has talked about me? Hinata felt a little nervous. He sure has. She gave Naruto a glance and saw him looking scared. She tossed him a quick wink before going on. He's told us that you're shy but very sweet and kind-hearted and a really strong ninja. He says that you're one of the few people who have never given him an angry look or a cruel word. Oh, and he also says that you're much cuter than Sakura. Chan, please. Naruto cried out as his face turned red. Well, you did, grinned. Naruto got the weirdest feeling that if he had an older sister, this is what she would be like. We're both very glad to see Naruto with someone who cares about him. Old man Tucci called from the kitchen. Naruto's a good young man and he deserves to finally find someone who cares about him. Hinata looked down to try and hide her blush. All these kind words and approval were embarrassing her and making her happy. For his part, Naruto was at a rare loss for words. Tucci and along with Hiraka and Sarutobi, were the closest thing he had to family. He was happy to hear them say they liked Hinata, but it was embarrassing at the same time. He decided to begin eating so that he wouldn't have to say anything. As he ate, he reminded himself to eat slowly and use good manners. As they ate, Naruto found himself struggling to make conversation. It wasn't that he had any problem talking to the girl or that he was lacking things he wanted to tell her. The problem was, I'm not allowed to tell you anything about my training. He was honestly frustrated. He was finally learning some really cool jutsus and he couldn't tell anyone. Ebisu-sensei has been working me really hard, but I'm starting to pick up some really cool moves. I mean, you would never think it to look at him, but he actually knows a lot of stuff and he's a really good teacher. He paused. Well, he's not as good as Iraka-sensei, of course. Iraka's the best. But the closet pervert is pretty good. Well, I'm happy to see you so excited, Naruto. The training must be going really well. Oh, it is. I just wish I could tell you about it. Some of the stuff he's showing me is just so cool. He frowned. But sensei made me promise not to tell anyone what I'm learning until after the exams are over. Hinata simply nodded. I'm not surprised, Naruto-kun. Surprise is a key element to victory. I would love to tell you what I've been working on, but I'm not allowed to either. You're working with your dad now, right? She nodded. What is that like? She stopped to think about it. Hard, he doesn't take it easy on me just because I'm his daughter. In fact, he usually goes harder because of that. But I think he's happy with my progress so far. He never actually says so, but he doesn't complain either, which is a really good thing. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I want to make my father proud. Naruto looked at her confidently. I'm sure you will, Hinata-chan. Hinata looked a little uncomfortable. But Naruto-kun, for me to do well, doesn't that mean you have to do poorly? No, Hinata-chan, he said confidently. We can both do great. Sensei explained it to me. Even though it's a tournament, you don't have to be the final winner to be promoted. The Hokage and a bunch of important people will be judging, and how well they score you determines if you get promoted or not. Hinata nodded. She already knew the procedures for the finals. That's true, Naruto-kun. So, if we have a really awesome match and show everyone what kick-ass ninja we are, we'll both get promoted no matter who wins. He sounded so confident. Like there was no possible doubt as to the outcome. That confidence, that absolute faith in himself, was something she had always admired in him. How she wished she could feel that away. You're right, Naruto-kun, I'm sure we'll both do well. He nodded as though there could be no question. He finished off the last of his ramen and slapped some money down on the counter. He looked out and saw the sun was just beginning to set. Hinata-chan, would you like to go somewhere special with me? Somewhere special? She began feeling excited and nervous. Sure, Naruto-kun. Great. He grabbed her hand and the two of them bolted. We need to hurry though. We have to get there before sunset. He shouted a goodbye to Ayam and Tucci as he ran. Ayam laughed once they were gone and looked to her father. Have you ever seen Naruto eat that slowly before? Her father laughed as well. Never, not even when he was with Irika or his team. The boy really cares about what that girl thinks of him. Ayam nodded her agreement. First love is so sweet. Neji looked at his teammate without any sympathy at all. I want to keep going. Ten was bent over at the waist with her hands on her knees, gulping down air. She was used to acting as Neji's training partner since neither of them could survive the hellish pace that Guy and Lee usually set. She was used to hard training at the speed Neji liked to set. But since the preliminaries, Neji had started pushing himself almost as hard as Lee or Guy. Give me just a minute, we've been going 8 hours straight. She put her face down and began huffing again. He frowned at her. These days she was probably the closest thing to a friend that he had. But friendship wasn't what mattered. If you're too tired to continue, then go home, I'll train alone. She looked back up again. She cared about him so much, but sometimes he treated her like a total stranger. I said I would keep going, but can we just take a short break? He was about to snap at her, but reined himself in. He reminded himself that it was not her fault that didn't have as much endurance as he did. He recognized she was a damn fine kunoichi, 100 times better than Hinata. And about the only person he could count on to help him train. So instead of yelling at her, he gave her a curt nod. All right, we'll break for 15 minutes. With a relieved sigh, she immediately sat down in the thick grass and pulled out a canteen. Neji took out a canteen as well, but remained standing. Guy should be here, he muttered. He should be fulfilling his duty as sensei, not spending all his time at the hospital. Ten frowned at that. Neji, he did train us today. Only for a few hours. Neji said angrily. He should be here now trying to help me become stronger. He's trying to help Lee. Ten defended her sensei's actions. Guy-sensei might be eccentric and more than a little weird, but he was a great teacher who truly cared for his students. She thought it spoke well of him that he was so concerned over Lee's welfare. Lee will never be a ninja again. Neji said flatly. Lee should accept his fate and move on. Guy-sensei should also accept this and realize Lee is no longer his concern. Neji, how can you say that? Lee is our friend and teammate. How can you be so cruel as to just give up on him and expect Guy-sensei to do the same? Life is cruel 10-10. Neji stated coldly. Especially for those who try to defy their fate. Lee was never meant to win that match. He resorted to a forbidden technique to try and alter that fact. His injuries and the end of his shinobi career are a result of his attempt to defy destiny. Neji suddenly looked away at a flight of birds high above. Those who try to defy fate are fools. Then what does that make you, Neji? She put away her canteen and got back up. All right, I'm rested. We can continue now. She took out some kunai. Neji nodded and got into his fighting stance. Am I a fool like Lee? Perhaps. Will I end the same or worse? Very likely. But I won't stop until I show the world the weakness of the main house. This is so beautiful, Naruto-kun. The two of them were sitting beneath a large tree atop the Hokage monument. They had a spectacular view of the setting sun. She looked over to the boy sitting right next to her. How did you ever find this place? He looked a bit embarrassed and rubbed the back of his head. Well, I sort of came across it while trying to hide from the ANBU after one of my pranks. She giggled. Well, it's nice to know some good came out of those pranks. Naruto gave her a hurt look. Oh, come on, Hinata-chan, some of those pranks were very artistic. You mean like that time you set off that cherry bomb in the teacher's bathroom? Hinata asked. Naruto shivered at the memory. Yeesh, I have never seen Irika-sensei get so mad. It was fall and with the sun leaving the sky it quickly got cooler. He noticed Hinata shiver a bit. Want to share my jacket? Oh, all right. Hinata said shyly. Naruto pulled his jacket off and draped it over the two of them as he held Hinata close to him. He wrapped his arms around her and held her to his chest. Is that better? Her heart was pounding like mad. She had never been this close to him. She pressed her face against his neck and hoped her blush wasn't too bad. Yes, much better, arigato. The two of them sat there in silence as the sun finally disappeared and the sky became a deep violet slipping into black. Naruto discovered he really liked having Hinata so close to him. Growing up he had been denied more than the bare minimum of human contact. It was one of the things he always longed for. That was why he was always ready to hug at the drop of a hat. Having Hinata in his arms comfortably resting against him reminded him that people were never meant to be alone. Hinata-chan, how long are you allowed to stay out? I have to be in bed by 11, so it's safe for me to stay until about 10:30. Could we just stay like this until then? He suddenly felt a lump in his throat. I'd really like to just hold you for a while. She looked up into his face and smiled. I would like that too, Naruto-kun. He nodded slowly and gave her a worried look. Is something wrong? He took a deep breath. Are you my girlfriend? I know there are a whole bunch of rules to dating, but I just wanted to know if after 2 dates does that mean we're boyfriend and girlfriend? She could feel her face getting hot, but she did not look away. Do you want me to be your girlfriend? She asked softly. Yes, for a change it was Naruto who was struggling to get his words out. She slowly smiled at him and pressed her face to his neck again. Then yes, I am your girlfriend Naruto-kun and you are my boyfriend. Little more was said. The two of them were content to just remain in their comfortable and warm silence. They were two lonely children who had finally discovered that they didn't have to be alone anymore. Chapter 8, A Training Tool. 15 days down and 15 left to go. Ebisu was very pleased with the progress Naruto had made so far. He had greatly improved his chakra control and had gotten down 2 jutsus. Now it was time to work on his taijitsu. They were both standing out in the middle of the pond. In general, they did their entire workouts there. It was an excellent way to force Naruto to constantly work on his chakra control even while concentrating on other things. Alright Naruto, Ebisu pushed his glasses back up and took a starting stance. We've worked on chakra control and ninjutsu. Now I want to see about your taijitsu. I want you to attack me as hard as you can using taijitsu only. I will only defend, I want to see what you can do. Alright. Naruto shouted. Eager to show off his fighting skills, he ran forward. He leapt in and attacked Ebisu with a shower of punches. Ebisu blocked them without much trouble. Naruto tried a leg sweep only to have his opponent jump up to avoid it. He tried more moves and surprise combos, attacking with a fierce joy, eager to show what he could do. After about 5 minutes, Ebisu called a halt to the exercise. He was not pleased. Naruto attacked with boundless energy and was good at improvising attacks and coming up with surprise moves. He had managed to slide past a block and land a single hit by turning an attack into a feint and bringing a leg up for a surprise kick. Unfortunately, those were the only positives. His basic forms were all sloppy and poorly executed. He tried to make up for his lack of form with sheer energy, but that could only go so far. Though only competent in taijitsu, he'd had no difficulty blocking everything Naruto could throw at him. His only success had come thanks to a surprising off-the-cuff maneuver. The fact was Naruto was very weak in the basics of hand-to-hand. He would have considered his performance poor for a fourth-year academy student. For someone about to try and make Chunin? Naruto, Ebisu asked. Have you been working on your taijitsu at all in the last 6 months? Naruto looked hurt. Of course, I have. I train on my own every night and I've had a bunch of spars with Sasuke team. Ebisu nodded. And let me guess, Sasuke beats you every time, doesn't he? He just gets lucky. Naruto shouted. No Naruto, it would be because his taijitsu is sharp and controlled whereas yours is slack and in desperate need of work. He eyed the boy speculatively. Let me guess, Kakashi has never taken any time to work with you on your fighting style, has he? The embarrassed way Naruto looked down was all the answer he needed. The more he worked with Naruto, the more convinced Ebisu became that while Kakashi was a legendary assassin and fighter, he knew nothing about being a teacher. Alright Naruto, all this means is we'll have to work to improve your taijitsu. I'm no specialist, but with your energy we can definitely have you looking better in no time. And since you know the Kagebushin, that will help with teaching you quickly. Naruto looked back up at him. What do you mean? What do shadow clones have to do with learning taijitsu? Ebisu looked at him. Well, haven't you noticed that when a clone is dispersed that you learn everything the clone knew? Naruto shook his head. Nope. The technique was originally developed to aid in scouting missions in especially dangerous situations. It would allow a ninja to go into hostile territory, and even if he was killed, he could gain valuable information. This aspect of retaining information also makes it perfect for training. Then why haven't we been using it this whole time? Well, it's easier for me as a teacher to show you new concepts one-to-one. Right now, I'm trying to perfect everything I've shown you so far. At the end of the month, I probably will just have you use your Kagebushins to practice everything. There is also one negative side effect to using shadow clones. Along with receiving their knowledge, you also get their exhaustion. I didn't want to push you too far past your limits. He again looked at Naruto speculatively. How many shadow clones can you make safely at one time? Naruto shrugged. A couple hundred. Ebisu's eyebrows leapt at the answer. The technique divided the user's chakra evenly throughout the clones. For Naruto to be able to divide his chakra that far was certainly impressive. Well, why don't we begin with 50 and see how that goes? Alright, Naruto ran through some hand signs. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Jutsu. Naruto let out a grunt as the area around him was filled with smoke. When the smoke lifted, there were 20 clones. Ebisu counted them and frowned. I asked for 50, was there a problem? Naruto looked frustrated and angry with himself. I'm sorry, sensei, I tried to make 50 but this was all I could manage. I see, Naruto, as your teacher, when I ask you what you can do I want you to give me an honest answer. Please don't feel that you have to lie about your abilities to impress me. 20 is about my limit as well, so this is quite good. But I'm not lying. Naruto shouted. I really can make a couple hundred easy. He frowned. Well, I used to before that snake guy messed with me. The mention of snake immediately drew Ebisu's attention. He had of course learned of Orochimaru's recent return and interest in Sasuke. There had however been no mention that he had an interest in Naruto as well. By snake guy do you mean Orochimaru? Naruto slowly nodded. Yeah, I think that's what Sakura said his name was. He did something to me and my chakra has been off ever since. Ebisu was worried. He did not like the idea of Orochimaru trying to affect the chakra Naruto held. What did he do exactly? Well, I have a seal on my stomach because of, well you know. Ebisu nodded. He touched me there and I blacked out. Ever since I haven't been able to draw as much chakra as I used to. Ebisu nodded nervously. I see. Naruto, dismiss your clones, we're going to the tower right now. What? But what about my training? Training can wait, Naruto, anything involving your seal is much more important. Ebisu was no seal master, but fortunately one happened to be available. Who is the weirdo? Naruto asked. What? An offended Jiraiya shouted. Do you have any idea who you're talking to, kid? If I did, I wouldn't be asking who you are. Naruto was feeling cross. He wanted to be training, not stuck in a little room with the old man, the closet pervert, and this weirdo with the white hair and red eye makeup. Well, I'll have you know that I am Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin, the all-knowing Toad Sage, a ninja of awesome renown, a ladies' man without equal, He is my former student and he will be taking a look at your seal, Naruto. The Hokage cut in. Jiraiya gave his old teacher a frown for not letting him reveal his true greatness. He looked back at Naruto. Okay kid, take off your jacket and shirt, I need to take a look at your seal. Naruto looked at him suspiciously. You're not a pedophile, are you? What? After finally calming down an irate Jiraiya and convincing Naruto to take off his jacket and shirt, they were finally able to look at his belly. A 5-point seal over an 8-point seal. Jiraiya shook his head. Sloppy, definitely the work of Orochimaru's. He never did have much talent for seals. I can see why you've had trouble accessing chakra. Can it be repaired? The Hokage asked. Jiraiya grinned. It sure can. Naruto, put your arms up for a second. Why? Naruto, please do as Lord Jiraiya asks. Ebisu said. Fine, Naruto put his hands up in the air. Jiraiya jabbed 5 fingers into Naruto's stomach. 5-prone seal release. Ow. Naruto doubled up in pain and glared at the spiky-haired old guy. That hurt. Sorry, Jiraiya said innocently. That's what you get for calling me a pedophile. But now that the restraining seal has been removed, you should be able to access the same amount of chakra as before. Naruto quickly got his shirt and orange top back on. Does this mean I can get back to training now? Actually, if you wouldn't mind waiting outside, I'd like to have a word with your teacher. Jiraiya said. Oh, come on. I need to get back to training. Naruto whined.
Please just wait outside, Naruto. I am sure this will not take long.
The Hokage said. Grumbling, Naruto left the room.
Jiraiya actually smiled.
The kid's got a whole lot of fire in his belly, doesn't he? Ebisu nodded.
He is very motivated to prove himself to everyone and works tirelessly. I can honestly say I have never had such a dedicated student. Usually, I have to spend time convincing people to put in a full effort. With him I have to convince him when it's time to stop.
Jiraiya thought fondly of another young blonde boy who never wanted to stop working. Ebisu shook his head a bit.
It's a shame I'm forced to do so much remedial work with him.
What do you mean?
The Hokage asked.
Naruto has not even received as much instruction as I would expect in an academy graduate. His taijitsu, for example, is completely unrefined and raw. I am having to take time just to get it to a level it should already be at.
Quite honestly, it's amazing to me that he has managed to get this far on sheer will and determination. Sounds to me like the kid has a whole lot of guts.
Jiraiya said.
A thoughtful look crossed his face. He sounds really interesting, almost makes me want to take a closer look at him.
Ebisu looked worried. You're not going to steal him away from me, are you?
Oh no, I'm done taking on students, that part of my career is in the past.
Jiraiya confirmed. Would you object if Jiraiya did want to take over his instruction?
The Hokage asked curiously.
Ebisu paused and seemed embarrassed. Please tell me what you honestly think. Hokage-sama, if Lord Jiraiya wanted to teach Naruto, I would of course agree.
However, I can't deny I am very eager to see just how far Naruto can go under my instruction.
If I could help him become Chunin, I would consider it my proudest moment as an instructor.
I see, the Hokage was very happy to hear that. It pleased him to know Naruto was being instructed by someone eager to see him succeed.
Well, I am sure you are keen to return to training. Ebisu nodded. Thank you, Hokage-sama, he turned a bit. Thank you, Lord Jiraiya.
Jiraiya.
He then left. Sarutobi looked at his student and could guess what he was thinking. Does Naruto remind you of anyone?
Jiraiya slowly nodded.
Minato had better manners, but I've got to admit they were both eager and loud and had the guts to take on anything. Sarutobi smiled. Do you know what Naruto's dream is?
No, what?
He wants my job someday.
Jiraiya looked over at his teacher.
Does he now? Well, isn't that interesting?
As soon as they returned to training ground 14, Ebisu realized something quite surprising. The restraining seal Orochimaru had acted as a training tool. By forcing Naruto to work with lesser amounts of chakra, it had allowed him to gain a degree of chakra control he had never had before. Now that the seal was removed, Naruto had access to a vast pool of chakra while retaining the chakra control that he developed. This combination of control and huge reserves opened up new possibilities. Ebisu had a very specific idea on just how Naruto could take advantage of this. All right, Naruto, it's time to go. Naruto and about 50 weary clones looked up at him.
Can't we keep training just a little longer?
He had spent the entire day learning taijitsu stances and moves and then practicing them using clones.
He had literally spent the entire day beating himself up. It's already well past 7, Naruto.
You need to get some rest for tomorrow, and I need to do some research for your training. Naruto complained a while longer but finally dismissed his clones and left with his sensei. Jiraiya leapt down from one of the nearby trees. He'd been hidden away there for the last few hours watching Naruto struggle and fight to improve. He had a smile on his face as he left to go do some research.
Chapter 9, The Last Day.
20 days had passed. Ebisu had spent the last 5 working on getting Naruto's Taijitsu to a respectable level. He dearly wished it had not been necessary as it took time away from other things. But as he had told Naruto, the foundations had to be firm before you could build on them.
And he had an idea.
On the morning of the 21st day he let Naruto know just what he had in mind. Alright Naruto, so far we have greatly improved your chakra control, you have learned a pair of Winjutsus, and you have greatly improved your Taijitsu.
Naruto gave him a big smile. He loved hearing praise. Yeah, I am pretty awesome. So, what are you going to teach me next, closet pervert? Ebisu frowned. Naruto, I have told you before to stop calling me that. Can't. Ebisu quirked an eyebrow. And why can't you? Because that's what you are and I call M like I see M. If you want me to stop calling you that, stop being a perv. How rude, Ebisu shook his head. Well, never mind. Now, what I wanted to let you know is that I only have one more new technique to teach you. Once you have learned it, we will spend the remainder of our time perfecting what I have taught you. What? Naruto sounded more than a little upset. You're only going to teach me one more thing? Ebisu shook his head. Naruto, have you any idea how long it takes most ninja to even acquire one jutsu? Despite what it might seem, you have done extremely well. The jutsus I taught you are an A rank and a B rank, and you learned each in less than a week. That is nothing short of spectacular. Then teach me more jutsus. I promise I'll learn them. Naruto pleaded. Ebisu shook his head. I'm sorry Naruto, but there just isn't enough time now. The technique I'm about to show you will likely take a while for you to get down. There simply won't be enough time after that for me to show you anything else and have it ready in time for the finals. Well, show something anyway. If you teach me another jutsu, I promise I'll work on it on my own after I make Chunin. Ebisu grinned. Well, no one could ever say the boy lacked confidence. A thought occurred to the teacher and the grin became a smile. Alright Naruto, there is one more jutsu I can teach you. If you can get this technique down to my satisfaction, I will teach it to you on our last day together. You won't be able to perfect it in time for the exams, but it should be helpful to you in the field. Naruto began bouncing up and down. However, Ebisu said sharply. There are two conditions to my teaching it to you. What? Tell me. First, this jutsu is lethal. There is really no way to safely use it without risking the life of your opponent. Therefore, even if you should feel you have learned it, you are not allowed to use it in the finals. And you are forbidden to ever use it against a fellow Leaf Nin. Naruto nodded his head seriously. Got it. It's for enemies only. I won't ever use it on anyone from the village. He paused to think about it. Well, unless they're a traitor or something like that. Ebisu nodded. Alright, and the second condition, if I teach it to you, you promise to never call me a pervert or anything like that again. Naruto stared at him. Is this a bribe? Yes. Naruto began to laugh. Alright Ebisu-sensei, it's a deal. So, what are you going to teach me now? I'll demonstrate. Wait right here. As Naruto stood there, Ebisu slowly walked away until he was about 100 yards. I want you to watch me closely. Closely. Okay, Naruto called back. He was curious as to what Ebisu could possibly want to show him from so far away. He certainly wouldn't be able to make out any hand signs. Then as he was watching, Ebisu just suddenly seemed to disappear. Still watching? Ebisu's voice spoke from directly behind him. Naruto jumped around to see his sensei standing there with a smug smile on his face. How did you do that? Naruto exclaimed. Was that a jutsu? Ebisu shook his head. No, that was a ninja technique commonly referred to as forcing. It was originally developed by the Sennin Lady Tsunade.
What it basically does is allow you to focus your chakra into a certain point in your body, making it far more powerful than normal. She had such superb chakra control she could actually shatter boulders just by focusing chakra into her fist.
Shatter boulders? Naruto sounded excited. You won't be able to do that. Ebisu pointed out. Huh? What do you mean?
To be able to focus your chakra tightly enough to do something like that takes extraordinary control.
My own chakra control is excellent, much better than yours, Naruto, but I could never do it. It's pretty unlikely that you would ever be able to. Then what's the point of showing me something you don't think I can use? Ebisu grinned.
I don't think your chakra control will ever be strong enough to turn part of your body into a weapon. But given your current level of control and the huge reserves you have, you should be able to do other things, such as work your legs and arms at great speeds.
Naruto's eyes widened. That's what you did.
That speed reminded me of Lee and Gai-sensei.
Ebisu nodded. You could get the same effect with months or years of intensive physical training. What Gai can do is actually superior to this since he doesn't have to use any chakra.
But since you don't have that kind of time to devote solely to physical training, you can use forcing to achieve the same effect.
Now normally most ninja would avoid this technique except in an emergency. Why?
Because it burns through your chakra very quickly. Most would just think the price of using it too high.
But given how huge your reserves are, it would make sense for you.
Also, it will act as a force multiplier.
Naruto looked lost. Huh? Ebisu sighed.
What I mean is this technique will make your other abilities more powerful. Your Taijitsu will be far more effective with the added speed. Your shadow clones will become far greater weapons. This ability combined with the amount of chakra you have will make you far more effective on the battlefield. Naruto imagined 100 shadow clones all moving too fast for the eye to follow. He recalled how Lee had clobbered precious old Sasuke before the exams. It doesn't matter what your eye can see if your body is too weak to act. He recalled Lee saying those words as he was kicking Sasuke's butt. Naruto began to shiver with excitement at the thought of facing Sasuke with that same sort of speed.
I am so going to kick the Uchiha's butt. Naruto began jumping up and down. Hurry up and teach me this.
With a chuckle, Ebisu began doing just that.
The last day of training arrived. Hinata stood exhausted before her father.
For the last 30 days, she had pushed herself to learn the techniques her father had shown her. Except for her times with Naruto, she had devoted herself totally to her training. Hiashi looked at his daughter, and the tiniest of grins appeared on his lips.
You have done very well, Hinata. I expect you to do equally well tomorrow. She stood up straight and looked her father in the eye. I promise to do my very best. He nodded.
Your training is now complete, Hinata. Get some rest and be ready for tomorrow.
The finals will be very challenging.
He turned to go and halted.
Hinata? Yes, father? Father?
His slight grin expanded just a fraction.
I am proud of you. With that he quickly left the family dojo.
Hinata stood there in shock for a moment, and then finally smiled.
We are done now, Naruto. I have taught you all that I could in the time we had. I hope it is enough.
A sweaty and dirty Naruto nodded his head gratefully.
Thanks, Ebisu-sensei, for everything. He looked down a bit embarrassed. You know, I wasn't really thrilled when Kakashi dumped me. But I'm glad now. You've really taught me a whole lot and I'm thankful. You are very welcome, Naruto. I am very glad I got this chance to get to know the real you. And I want to apologize to you for my earlier behavior. He gave the boy a deep bow.
I am sorry for the way I first treated you, Naruto.
Naruto blushed.
It felt weird to get acceptance from someone who had glared at him not too long ago. It felt weird but good.
It's all right, he mumbled. Ebisu grinned.
You know, Naruto, I have had a great many students, but you, far and away, are the best. If it was possible, his blush was getting darker.
You're just saying that to be nice. I know I'm not much of a student like Sakura or Team. I was dead last for a reason, you know.
I believe that if your teachers had not been biased towards you, then you would have excelled. Naruto, don't underestimate just how much you have learned in the past month's time.
And don't think so little about your ability to learn.
As time passes, you will learn more and more, and your skills will only increase.
I have no doubt at all that you will become a great ninja. Naruto's usual exuberance was completely vanished as he looked up shyly at his teacher. Do you really believe that, Ebisu-sensei? I do. Thank you, not many people really believe in me. Hearing that, thank you. Naruto didn't seem to have anything more to say. You're very welcome, Naruto.
I look forward to cheering you on tomorrow.
He smiled.
I'm also betting on you pretty heavily, so I expect to make a lot of cash. That brought a smile to Naruto's face, and he began to scratch the back of his head.
I won't let you down, Ebisu-sensei. Now, since I won't be teaching you anymore, I've decided to give you a small gift. Are you buying me ramen? He asked excitedly. I thought you were meeting with Hinata tonight? I am, but you could pay for it. Ebisu shook his head.
A man should pay for his own dates, Naruto.
He took out a scroll and handed it to the young boy.
Here, I know you'll put it to good use.
Is this a jutsu scroll?
Naruto took it and held onto it like it was made of pure gold.
Actually, I made it especially for you. There are 8 jutsus written on it. I am sure they'll all be of great use to you. Once you've learned them, come find me and I'll give you another one. And I hope that if you should need me at any time in the future, you will come see me. I will be happy to help you in any way I can. That was when Ebisu was ambushed. Thank you, sensei.
Naruto leapt up and glomped onto him. Ebisu quickly looked around, fearful people would see a 12-year-old boy attached to his chest.
Yes, that's good, you're very welcome.
Well, Ebisu tried patting the boy's head, but he continued holding on.
Don't you need to get ready for Hinata? Oh, that's right. Naruto finally let go. I need to get going. Bye, sensei.
Ebisu let out a relieved sigh that no one had seen that. In a nearby tree, Jiraiya was scribbling in his notebook. That would make a great scene for his next book. He had already decided it would be about an introverted young woman who was a teacher of the ninja arts and a closet pervert. He would call the character Ebisa.
Chapter 10, 5 minutes.
Time, there is so much of it and yet so little. And often just a few minutes can make all the difference between success and ruin. Just 5 minutes can change everything.
Isn't it cool, Hinata-chan?
Naruto was showing off his new scroll proudly.
Ebisu-sensei gave this to me as a gift.
And he says that after I learn all the jutsus on it, he'll give me another one.
I mean, this is so cool.
The only people who ever gave me anything before were the old man and Irika-sensei.
Hinata had to suppress a giggle at the way he was bouncing up and down on his stool.
He was so excited that most of his ramen was still sitting in his bowl.
I agree, Naruto-kun, it's a wonderful gift. Ebisu must think very highly of you.
He began to rub the back of his head with a pleased smile.
Well, yeah, he said I was his best student ever. Naruto puffed out his chest.
I mean, not that there could be any doubt. She put a hand over her mouth to keep from laughing.
Of course, not, Naruto-kun. He slipped the scroll into one of the deep pockets on his leather jacket and he looked a bit more seriously. Are you ready for tomorrow, Hinata-chan? Being reminded of what was only hours away now, she nodded. I think so, Naruto-kun.
I still don't want to have to fight you, but I'm going to do my best. She began to press her fingers together nervously. I can't tell you specifically what I learned.
But I will show you some new techniques. Naruto nodded. So have I.
The conversation sort of petered out as neither of them could reveal what they had learned.
Naruto was also feeling a little weird that it was Hinata he would have to fight tomorrow. Hinata-chan, he said quietly. Whatever happens tomorrow, my feelings for you aren't going to change. She slowly nodded. Mine won't either, Naruto-kun. Why did it have to be you? Why couldn't I be fighting Sasuke? It was just the luck of the draw.
Thinking about Sasuke further soured his mood.
I wonder how Team will do against Gaara. You sound worried, Naruto-kun. He immediately shook his head to deny it. Me worried? And about Sasuke? Sasuke? I am sure he will do fine. Naruto? Hinata?
The two of them turned around to see Shikamaru entering the ramen stand.
Hey Shika. Naruto greeted. Hello Shikamaru, Hinata said. How has your training gone? Shikamaru frowned. It's been troublesome, of course. My dad and Asuma ganged up on me and they made me train 3 or 4 hours a day.
Naruto and Hinata both stared at him.
Seeing that, Shikamaru nodded. I know, it was brutal. 3 or 4 hours? Naruto yelled at him.
I worked 12-hour days and I would have worked more except my sensei made me stop.
Shikamaru stuck a finger in his ear. Geez Naruto, do you have to be so loud? Shikamaru, this is our big chance to show everyone what we can do. Don't you want to do your very best to impress people? Naruto demanded.
Not really, the truth is the only reason I worked out as much as I did was because Asuma threatened to leave me partnered with Ino for training and missions.
He shivered at the thought. Naruto shook his head. Don't you at least want to get promoted? Not really, who wants the responsibility of being Chunin? Shikamaru eyed the two of them. Well, since I've never seen Hinata in a dress for you in anything but that ugly orange jumpsuit, I'm guessing the two of you are on a date. Hinata blushed a bit while Naruto glowered. What's wrong with my jumpsuit? Shikamaru shrugged. I could tell you, but I don't have that sort of time. I'm actually on my way to the hospital to see Chuji. Both Naruto and Hinata were surprised to hear that. I didn't know Chuji was hurt. Hinata said. Is this from his match at the preliminaries? I didn't think it was that serious. Naruto said. Nah, this has nothing to do with that. Asuma promised to take Chuji to get all-you-can-eat barbecue if he actually fought his match. Asuma finally got around to taking us out yesterday. After 20 plates of food, Chuji had to be brought to the hospital with a severe case of indigestion. Naruto got the sudden mental image of a pair of medic neens struggling to carry him out of the restaurant on a stretcher as Chuji complained that he wanted more beef. Naruto clutched his sides and began howling with laughter. Naruto-kun. That is not nice. Hinata chided. He slowly got his laughter under control as he wiped a tear from his eye. Sorry, Hinata-chan, sorry. Can we come with you, Shikamaru? Hinata asked. Sure, why not? I'm sure Chuji would like that. Hey, while we're there we can visit Fuzzy Brows too. Naruto quickly finished his bowl and the three of them headed to the hospital. As luck would have it, when they arrived in Chuji's room, Ino was already there talking to her teammate. Why don't we go see Lee first? Shikamaru suggested. Ino will be talking for a while. Sure, Naruto said. Hinata nodded her consent. They went down the hall to Lee's room and opened the door. Blood. There was blood. It was on the walls, the floor, the window, and the ceiling. It was splattered all around the room. The bed sheets were soaked with it. Lying crumpled on the floor facing them was Lee. His eyes were wide open and looking at them lifelessly. Standing calmly nearby was Gaara of the desert. He too was looking at them, his eyes calm and unfeeling. Sand danced around at his feet, jumping and squirming as though alive. "Have you come to prove my existence?" he whispered. The three of them were frozen for an instant. Too horrified, too shocked at the scene before them to do anything but stare. Then Hinata began screaming. The two boys beside her snapped into action. Shadow possession technique. Shikamaru quickly ran through his hand signs and his shadow reached out to merge with Gaara's. The moment it did so, his sand fell to the floor inert. "Bastard!" Naruto screamed and leapt in, punching Gaara in the face. Shikamaru backed up as though he'd been struck. "Naruto, knock it off. Anything you do to him I feel through my jutsu. We need to call in the ANBU right now." Hinata was still screaming and staring at Lee's body. Naruto wrapped his arms around her and buried her face into his chest so she wouldn't have to look anymore. Naruto glared hatefully at the redhead who was still standing there calm and disinterested. "Why the hell did you do this, you murdering bastard?" Naruto shouted. "Calm down, Naruto, he's still dangerous." Shikamaru did not mention he could only hold him for a maximum of 5 minutes. But in his head the clock was ticking. Naruto, get Hinata out of here and contact the ANBU, let them know what happened. Shikamaru focused on Gaara, his calm demeanor while standing in the middle of all that blood was disturbing. "Naruto asked you a question, why did you do this? Did you have some kind of vendetta against Lee?" "No, nothing like that." Gaara answered unruffled. "I just felt like it." "You felt like it?" Shikamaru repeated with a hollow tone. "That's it?" "You murdering, heartless bastard," Naruto growled as he continued to hold Hinata close. "He was a friend of mine." Gaara's eyes glanced at Naruto and dismissed him. "So what? All other people are nothing to me. My own existence is all that matters." He glanced back at Shikamaru. "I'm bored now, let me go or I'll kill you all." "You've got to be kidding." Shikamaru shot back. "You just murdered a defenseless leaf nin and you think I'll let you go? You'll be executed for this." And as if on cue. "Yash, what is this screaming?" "What?" Madogai came to an abrupt halt at the doorway. "Lee!" And with that all hell broke loose. Naruto couldn't see what happened. 1 second Gai-sensei was standing beside him, the next he was gone. 1 second Gaara was standing in the middle of the hospital room, the next there was a bone-snapping crunch and he was flying through the wall. Shikamaru let out a shout of pain and was on the floor unconscious. From down the hall Ino and a couple of nurses were running towards them. From outside he could hear yelling. Through all this he kept a firm hold of Hinata. He looked at the girl that was still crying and shaking. He held her a little tighter and whispered to her that it was all right. In the middle of this sudden madness she was the important thing. He would always protect her and keep her safe, even when the world around them went insane. Gaara realized he was in trouble when he saw and tasted the blood coming out of his mouth. Being driven out of a second-story hospital room didn't worry him, the sand cushioned his landing and it happened too fast to worry about anyway. But as he stood up he looked at the blood and felt the pain of a broken jaw. His sand armor had saved his life, but he was wounded and bleeding. He loved the sight of blood, seeing it always made him feel certain about his own existence. It confirmed that he had a right to exist. And it made Mother happy too. But seeing his own blood was a different matter. He would have screamed, but all he could manage was a gurgle.
With his jaw broken, he could no longer talk.
Why?
Guy landed 10 feet in front of him, his killer intent so powerful that even Gaara was noticing it. The civilians who had been in the street or coming in or out of the hospital were running away shouting.
Why did you kill my precious student?
Before he killed the boy, he wanted to know. Guy was opening up the gates and letting the power flow into him. His skin turned red and the sheer volume of chakra became visible all around his body. Very few had ever seen the easygoing Mato guy really, truly angry. Those that had rarely survived the experience.
And Guy was angry now. If Gaara could have spoken, he would have screamed that his existence would not end.
Since he couldn't do that, he instead sent all of his sand forward to catch and kill the ninja who had hurt him. But just as soon as the sand began to move, Guy disappeared and Gaara could feel 100 punches slamming into his body. He was sent flying into the wall of a shop, through it, and out the wall on the other side. Before he could even land in the street, he felt a kick send him rocketing into the air above Konoha. Helpless, he could feel as his gourd was ripped off his back and thrown away. A rain of brutal punches seemed to fall on him from all directions, each one scraping away some of his sand armor. This was like his match against Lee, only a dozen times worse. Guy opened 7 of the 8 gates. He wanted every scrap of power he could get his hands on in order to avenge his precious protege. He would have gladly opened the last gate, but he had to live.
As Lee's sensei, it was his responsibility to apologize to Lee's parents for failing to protect their son.
He had watched Lee's match and understood just how dangerous Gaara was, so long as he had access to sand. He had gotten him into the air away from the bulk of his sand. He had gotten rid of the gourd that he knew Gaara could convert to sand. Now he was quickly stripping off that sand that Gaara was using as armor.
When it was gone, Gaara was a poor ninja and not a very good fighter.
Given his track record of having survived dozens of fights and assassination attempts without a scratch, that would seem impossible. But the fact was, Gaara had always relied on his innate ability with sand to both protect and attack for him. He had never felt the need to consider strategy. Until his match with Lee, no enemy had ever broken through his defenses. As such, he had stopped feeling any fear when he fought. And because he was not used to fighting while aware he could be hurt or killed, that left him a tendency to panic whenever he got into real danger. The moment Guy opened the gates, Gaara was no match for him even with his sand. Lee had pushed him and Guy was a far more powerful and experienced foe.
Gaara's only hope from that point on had been to fully transform into Shikaku.
Nothing less, not even a partial transformation, would have been enough to save him. But facing Guy's ferocious assault, Gaara was too panicked to think logically. Inside, he was screaming in mindless terror. The last of the sand was gone and his enemy was now helpless. Guy had deliberately tossed Gaara to the space above Training Ground 29. It was a special training area for mountain fighting. It was completely bare of any sand or dirt, the entire training area was granite.
Now you will pay for what you have done.
His bandages wrapped around Gaara and together he drove them down towards the earth with terrifying speed.
Reverse Lotus. At the last instant, Guy leapt away. Gaara slammed into the rock-hard ground with explosive force, sending up a huge cloud of dust and debris.
When the dust finally settled, Guy stood at the lip of a 30-foot deep crater. He was looking down at the broken, shattered body of his student's killer. He had done it, he had avenged Lee.
Gaara was dead. Chapter 11, Plans and Counterplans. What exactly is going on?
The Hokage demanded. His assistants looked at one another embarrassed. All we know is that there is some sort of fighting going on near Konoha Hospital.
A and BU have been dispatched to the scene.
That had been true 10 minutes ago, and he still knew nothing more. Sarutobi bit down on his pipe and reminded himself not to take his frustration out on his assistants. He looked back out his office window down on the village.
Could this have something to do with Orochimaru? Could this be a precursor to an actual full-scale attack? Many possibilities ran through his mind.
What he needed was information.
An ANBU in a raccoon mask entered his office. Hokage-sama, I have a report.
He turned to the man.
Let's hear it.
Hokage-sama, a murder was committed in the hospital. The genin, Rock Lee, was the victim.
Everyone in the room began whispering, including not only his assistants, his advisors Koharu and Hamaru, who were also present.
Following the attempt on Sasuke, this was the second attack on a ninja in the hospital.
Sarutobi wondered if the two could somehow be related. Please continue, do we know who the killer was? The ANBU nodded.
We have statements from 3 reliable witnesses. They all agree that it was Sabaku no Gaara.
There were gasps all around at the news. The Kazekage's son murdered one of our ninja?
Koharu said in stunned disbelief.
Who are the witnesses? Hamaru asked. Uzumaki Naruto, Naro Shikamaru, and Hyuga Hinata. Hamaru and Koharu looked at one another unhappily.
Had it only been Naruto, there might have been room for doubt. But they could not question the word of the heirs to the Nara and Hyuga clan.
Did the 3 of them attack Gaara? Is that the fighting that was reported? No, Hokage-sama, Gaara was attacked by Mato Guy. Guy? Lee-sensei? Sarutobi asked. Hi, he was in the hospital and upon seeing what had happened he instantly attacked Gaara.
Well, I certainly cannot blame him for that.
So, what happened? Hokage-sama, the fight ended at Training Ground 29.
There we found the body of Gaara as well as an incapacitated guy. Apparently, he opened a number of the inner gates during their battle and his body has gone into shock as a result. He has been transported to Konoha Hospital where he is currently in surgery and in critical condition.
The medic neens are not certain he will survive. I see.
Sarutobi took a long puff on his pipe as he considered everything he had just been told. I will have to inform the Kazekage of this immediately. Please send a message to him asking him to meet me here. The Kazekage approached the tower with his 2 bodyguards seemingly serene and unconcerned. But underneath the man was actually very worried. The sudden summons to the tower had caught him completely off guard.
Did Sarutobi-sensei know?
It was possible. Whatever his feelings towards the man, he was willing to acknowledge that Sarutobi had been called the professor for a reason. There was a very real chance he was walking into a trap. But if the summons was genuine, he could not refuse without insulting the man and raising suspicions. So, he had decided to answer the summons and take the risk. Well, I have to admit the danger makes the game more interesting. As they approached the entrance, he whispered just loud enough for his 2 servants to hear. Do nothing unless I command it, no matter what you see or hear. Both of them gave the barest of nods. Alone in the Hokage's office, the 2 men faced each other for the first time in more than 15 years.
Though only one of them knew that. Well, Hokage-sama, for what reason have you asked me to come here?
It involves your son Gaara, the Hokage spoke carefully.
The Kazekage lifted a single eyebrow.
I presume he is in some sort of trouble.
Kazekage-sama, I am afraid I must inform you that Gaara committed murder against the ninja Rock Lee.
As I am sure you are aware, both murder and attacking a ninja of the leaf are capital crimes within this village.
Gaara has been executed according to the law. That was technically true, though Guy had not been acting as a law enforcement agent at the time.
How are we to deal with this?
Koharu asked. Gaara committed a pair of capital offenses, Sarutobi said calmly. For both committing murder and attacking a leaf ninja, he would have been executed no matter whose son he was. Even if his death was warranted, he was still the Kazekage's son. Whatever the justification, this could lead to war, or at the very least the cancelling of our alliance. Koharu said. Perhaps, Hamura added. There is a way we could offer the Kazekage some compensation for this tragedy, something to appease his anger. Sarutobi frowned. What do you suggest? If Guy lives, he should be handed over to Suna to face trial. Perhaps that would satisfy the Kazekage and avoid a greater tragedy. Koharu slowly nodded. That might at least help the situation. You wish me to hand over one of our most respected and honored ninja to face trial for avenging his student's murder? The Hokage asked. I admit that it is not the most honorable alternative. Hamura stated. But is it not worth any sacrifice to avoid a possible war? In a way Madogai would be sacrificing himself for the sake of the village. Koharu pointed out. No, Sarutobi said flatly. Guy's actions were fully in accordance with the law, and I refuse to sacrifice him for no better reason than it is expedient. Sacrifices must be made for the good of the village, but I will not sacrifice a man who acted honorably in the defense of his student. I shall inform the Kazekage that his son was executed due to his crimes. But Koharu tried to argue. I have made my decision. Sarutobi repeated firmly. The shock in the Kazekage's eyes was not feigned. Even with a veil covering most of his face, it was obvious to Sarutobi the man was completely taken by surprise. You are saying that my son Gaara is dead? The Kazekage asked, sounding stunned. Sarutobi nodded slightly. Please accept my condolences and understand that this act was unavoidable the moment he committed his crime. I pray that this will not damage the relations between our villages. The Kazekage's mind was racing. With this news, all his plans had been completely ruined. Gaara had been his trump card, the key to all his plans to destroy Konoha. Now the little fool had gotten himself killed. He needed a moment to think. He leaned back in his seat and steepled his fingers. Sarutobi watched his reaction nervously from behind his desk. It was much too late to call off the attack. All the forces had been brought to the vicinity of Konoha undetected. There was no guarantee that such a thing could be done again. He had waited too long for his revenge, and with the attack now less than 24 hours away, he was determined to go through with it whatever else might come. He thought he saw a way to at least partially make up for the loss of Shikaku's power. But that would require him to radically alter his own role in the attack. He stared hard at Sarutobi-sensei. Well now, which is more important to me? Killing you or destroying this village? He found it a difficult choice as he wanted both badly. Ultimately, he decided that he should concentrate on destroying the village. After all, if he was leading the attack, the old fool would likely try to confront him. Then he would get to enjoy both his personal revenge and his revenge on his home. What an interesting twist. It will make things more difficult, but I will still find a way to destroy Konoha. Now then, how would a father react to the death of a son he hated? Whatever his actions, Gaara should have stood trial for them. Not only as my son but as a participant of these exams he should have been protected. I therefore demand that you hand over his killer to me to stand trial for murder. The Kazekage held some slight anger in his voice. The reaction was about what he'd expected, though perhaps a bit cold-blooded. Sarutobi sadly shook his head. I refuse to do so. From our point of view, no crime was committed. Therefore, I cannot in good conscience give him to you. Is that your final word on the matter? The Kazekage asked. It is. Very well, the Kazekage rose from his seat. In protest over my son's cruel murder, my entourage and I shall immediately leave this village. I will not attend tomorrow's finals. I shall not start a war over this matter or even end the alliance. But be aware that my demand for my son's killer remains, and I shall not be satisfied until he is handed over to me. With that, the Kazekage departed.
Sarutobi sat in his office for a while replaying the conversation again and again in his mind. He had at least managed to avoid the worst-case scenario. The actual result was bad but could have been far worse. But something about the Kazekage's reaction had seemed off. He didn't really seem like a father who had lost a son.
He'd had 2 sons and lost one.
Even if he'd had issues, he couldn't imagine having a son die and show so little emotion.
Sarutobi shook his head. He had to call an emergency meeting tonight. He's dead?
Tamari stared at him, not sure how to react.
Baki nodded once.
I was informed by the Lord Kazekage, and I have gone personally to identify the body.
This is no ruse, Dara truly is dead. The boy let out a long breath. Thank Kami. Tamari turned on him and shouted. Kankoro. Don't say things like that. No matter what, he was still our baby brother.
Yeah, and he was a psychopath who was always one wrong word away from killing us both. Kankoro snapped back unapologetic.
How many times did he threaten to kill you, Tamari? Are you going to stand there and pretend you're not as relieved as I am?
She looked down ashamed.
I'm relieved, she admitted.
But he was still our brother.
He was never our brother. Kankoro snapped. He made that pretty damn clear too. I plan on going out and celebrating.
You will not, Baki said sharply. You will both get a good night's sleep.
You know what is coming tomorrow. The 2 of them looked alert.
Wait, Tamari whispered.
Even in their hotel room, there could be ears listening. The operation is moving forward without Gaara? It is, Baki answered.
For that is the will of the Kazekage. So, both of you be prepared tomorrow. I have called this emergency session of the council together to give you an update on recent events. Sarutobi informed them.
He then gave them a general description of the events of the day, including his discussion with the Kazekage.
With respect, Hokage-sama, perhaps you should reconsider handing over Guy.
Danzo informed him.
With his sacrifice, it seems this incident would be completely resolved.
How the hell can you do that when he was avenging his student? Tsume demanded. Being an Inuzuka, it was not surprising that she had the strongest sense of loyalty of anyone present. What the hell would that say to our ninja? Even if you are honorable and the cause just, we will still betray you?
Sacrifices are sometimes necessary for the greater good, every ninja knows this.
Danzo intoned.
Yeah, Shikaku agreed.
But are you really going to sacrifice him when all he did was execute a murderer? That would be a disgusting betrayal on our part. Chuza supported his friend and teammate.
Perhaps, Koharu said.
But isn't it better to sacrifice one man if it prevents a war? What if you sacrifice him and it doesn't? Inoichi asked.
We would lose one of our best ninja for nothing, and you would also be showing everyone how little we value honor and loyalty. Guy will not be sacrificed.
Sarutobi said. I have already made my decision. How is Guy doing? Shikaku asked.
He survived the surgery but will likely be incapacitated for some months.
Sarutobi said.
He opened 7 of the inner gates and has suffered accordingly.
If he will unfit for service for so long, what is to become of his students? Hiashi asked. Sarutobi shook his head. That question can wait. He looked at the man standing patiently at the end of the table. Ibiki, you have information on the murder investigations? The scarred head of ANBU's torture and interrogation department nodded.
On the disappearance and presumed murder of the finals participant Dosu, I am afraid we have no leads.
Due to the lack of a body, we cannot even be sure if there was a murder.
As for the death of Hay-8, as I know you are all aware, he had suspicions about a young genin named Kabuto.
The same Kabuto who was confronted by Kakashi during an attempt to kidnap or kill Uchiha Sasuke.
It seems clear now that he was working as a double agent for Orochimaru. We already know all of this, Koharu pointed out.
Is there a point to bringing this up?
There is. Following the Kazekage's departure from the village, we maintained a discreet watch over him. Kabuto was observed speaking to him. Shouts erupted from nearly everyone except the Hokage. He let the chaos reign for a bit before bringing the meeting back to order.
It now seems certain that there is some connection between Orochimaru and Suna. Sarutobi calmly stated. How sure are you that they met? Koharu demanded.
Very. Ibiki tossed a manila folder out onto the middle of the table. It opened and spilled out a dozen pictures.
All of them black and white images of a smiling Kabuto speaking to the Kazekage.
Shikaku looked at one of the pictures and pretty much summed up what the council members were all thinking. Now this is really troublesome. Sarutobi sighed. He was getting too damn old for this.
Though we lack the specifics, we must assume that something will take place tomorrow. It may be anything from another attempt on Sasuke to some sort of actual attack. Why don't we just cancel the finals? Sum asked.
We have a great number of important visitors in the village who are here to witness them. If we were to cancel and then nothing was to happen, we would offend a great many clients and potential clients.
Koharu pointed out.
Besides which, if something is planned for the finals, we are as ready to deal with it as possible.
Danzo stated.
It would be better to deal with it now while we are ready than have our opponents change their plans and strike at a later time when we are less prepared.
Sarutobi nodded his agreement.
And to make certain we are prepared, we will step up our patrols both within and outside the village. He looked specifically at Sum, Inoichi, and Hiashi.
In regards to which I would like to ask for additional help from the Inuzuka, Yamanaka, and Hyuga clans. All three clan heads immediately nodded their agreement.
Very well then, Sarutobi said.
Let us coordinate our plans for tomorrow.
Kabuto arrived at the hidden camp where most of the sound forces were still in hiding. He was soon surrounded by a dozen captains. He pushed his glasses up and smiled.
I have new orders for you from Orochimaru-sama. Chapter 12, A Bad Time. Naruto was in his apartment getting ready. He was really excited about his chance to finally show everyone just what he could do. He just wished it didn't have to be against Hinata. He and Hinata were in the hospital lobby. They had just given their statement to an ANBU about what they'd seen. Shikamaru had been unconscious for a couple minutes, but woken up no worse for wear.
He had felt the impact and pain of a jaw-shattering punch, but no actual harm was done.
The hospital was in chaos and the ANBU were not allowing anyone to leave until their investigation was complete.
Until he could get her safely home, he was sticking right by Hinata's side. Everything that had just happened had only driven home for him just how much Hinata meant to him. He never wanted to see her tears or hear her screams ever again. As they sat on a small bench with people running all about them, he thought he heard her say something. He looked over to her. She was no longer shaking or crying, but she did seem sort of pale and she had been really quiet since giving her statement.
Did you say something, Hinata-chan?
She could barely meet his eyes.
I'm sorry, she said miserably. Sorry? Sorry for what? I'm sorry that I was useless back there.
You and Shikamaru both took action while I was being completely useless.
She looked away from him. Maybe everyone is right, maybe I am weak. You're not weak.
He said that so loud a number of people stopped and looked in his direction. Naruto reached out and took both of her hands.
Hinata-chan, forget what those idiots said. I've had people tell me my whole life that I was a failure. I don't care what people think. They're wrong about me and they're wrong about you.
They haven't seen the real you yet. Once they do, they'll realize how strong you are. She looked up at him and saw how strongly he really believed that.
He believes in me.
Naruto-kun felt that way about her was pleasing and humbling to her.
Naruto-kun, how can you be so sure? She asked. You saw how I fell apart.
If her father had seen that, he would have looked away in shame and probably put her in the cadet branch.
Naruto didn't look at her with shame or embarrassment.
He looked at her with a simple understanding that made her feel safe.
This was your first time, wasn't it, Hinata-chan? The first time you've really seen death up close.
All she could manage was a nod.
The first time is always the hardest. You're allowed to have trouble with it, especially when it's someone you know. But you'll be able to deal with it, I'm sure. You're a strong person, Hinata-chan, and I believe in you.
She looked at him and felt her heart flutter inside her chest and her face grow hot.
How could he be so kind and understanding to someone as weak and undeserving as her? Naruto-kun, she hesitated. This wasn't your first time, was it?
No, it wasn't, he said quietly.
Could you tell me about what it was like for you? Naruto really didn't want to talk about it.
But he could see it would help her if he did. It was on our first C-rank mission. We were in Wave Country trying to protect this bridge builder from a pair of really powerful missing named Zabuza and Haku.
What happened?
Well, there was this big battle on a bridge. Kakashi was stuck fighting Zabuza while Sasuke and I were facing Haku.
Sakura was guarding the client.
Sasuke and I were trapped in this dome made of ice mirrors, and Haku was turning us into pin cushions, throwing senbons at us.
It was during that part of the fight I saw Sasuke die.
He took an attack that was aimed at me, and I had to watch as he died in my arms.
Hinata looked confused. But wait. Sasuke's not dead.
I know, it turns out that Haku's attack only put Sasuke into a death-like state.
But I didn't know that at the time.
I was watching someone die for the very first time, and it was a teammate that had just saved my life.
That was really hard. Hinata nodded with sympathy.
Seeing someone she knew and likely dead was terrible.
But if it had been Kiba, Shino, or Kurenai-sensei, it would have been much worse. What did you do?
Well, when I got over the shock of seeing Sasuke's body in front of me, I sort of got mad. I mean really mad. He paused, not liking that memory either.
He remembered the very end with Zabuza lying beside Haku in death.
He recalled his own shattered heart at everything that had been lost. That mission had been filled with things he would have liked to have forgotten. But he had to admit now that the experience had strengthened him and shown him what being a ninja really was. There was glory and excitement, but there was also blood and pain and loss. All of it was a part of being ninja, he understood that now.
Hinata was just learning. The point is, Hinata-chan, that I didn't deal with it the way a ninja should have. I totally lost control, and a ninja should never do that.
Don't think just because you lost control the first time you saw a friend killed that it means you're weak.
It just means you're human.
When he explained it like that, she slowly nodded.
So, you really don't think I'm weak?
No,
he answered. I think you're human.
And I would never ever want you to lose that part of yourself. She seemed relieved by what he had said, and by the time he had gotten her home, or at least within 5 blocks, she seemed to be all right. Looking into the mirror, he knew he was ready. Today he would show the whole village the real Uzumaki Naruto. He just wished it didn't have to be against Hinata. He stormed out of his apartment eager and ready to give everything that he had today. The changes that Sarutobi and the council had put into effect yesterday began having an immediate impact. A frustrated Kabuto slipped into the village. He was not wearing an ANBU uniform. He had been hoping to ambush a solitary ANBU agent, but all the patrols seemed to running in groups of 4 or more. And he had noted that they were all carrying radio communicators, which was a bit unusual. He was sure he could deal with 4 ANBU, but he wasn't convinced he could take them before a message got out. Even if he did, a 4-man patrol going missing would be noticed a lot faster than a single agent would be. His orders from Orochimaru-sama had been very specific: do nothing to raise alarm until just before the scheduled time. And so, he had been forced to rely on a simple henge to disguise himself.
That was not good. The whole reason he had wanted to get his hands on an ANBU uniform in the first place was to avoid using one. For skilled Jonin henges were not hard to spot.
All the sound agents who had infiltrated the stadium and the village were wearing civilian costumes. Kabuto realized too late that he should have just done the same. But being ANBU would have given him more license to move about unquestioned, and he'd been certain of his ability to acquire one. It was too late now to get a civilian disguise. And sure enough, almost as soon as he had entered the stadium, an ANBU in a cat mask had pointed to him and shouted for him to halt.
Kabuto had no trouble escaping, but it was obvious he could not remain in a stadium full of ANBU unnoticed.
Not if he was forced to rely on a henge for disguise. Unfortunately, he was pressed for time. Deciding there was nothing he could do in the stadium, he found a nice quiet cafe and sat down to have some tea. All those disguised sound agents would be in a world of hurt without his genjutsu, but there was nothing he could do. He could not even contact Orochimaru unless he wanted to be outside the village for the attack, and if he did that, he still wouldn't be in position to use his genjutsu.
So, he decided to do the next best thing. He would stay in the village and join in the attack then. Looking at his watch, he had about 15 minutes. He ordered some chocolate cake to go with his tea. Cafe Miruki had the best chocolate cake. Sum rubbed the top of her partner's head. "You ready?" "Of course." Kuramaru answered. Even with his eye patch and many scars, the large black dog was still always eager for action. Sum looked over at her daughter Hana, her son Kiba, and her 2 nephews who were making up this patrol along with all their accompanying dogs. "The Hokage is depending on us Inuzukas to find any trouble that might be out there." "Are we going to let the Hokage down?" she demanded. She was answered immediately by a loud chorus of no's and barks. "What the hell are we waiting for? Let's get going already!" An over-eager Kiba shouted. He was immediately smacked in the back of his head by his mom. "Are you pack leader now?" she demanded. An embarrassed Kiba lowered his head submissively. Laughing, Sum rubbed his head to show she wasn't angry. "All right. Let's get going." With shouts and barks of pure joy, the Inuzukas went out looking for trouble. The ANBU captain in the rabbit mask lifted a fist signaling a halt. 2 ANBU and 2 genin landed on the ground near him. The rabbit turned to one of the genin. "Please scout ahead for us, Neji." He nodded politely at the order. "Yes, Captain, Byakugan." He then spent a moment searching out everything within a 2-mile radius. He and Tenten had been in the hospital hoping for the chance to talk to their sensei. Unfortunately, Guy was still in intensive care and unable to receive visitors. It was during this time that the ANBU had informed him that he would be attached to one of their patrols the following morning. Tenten had immediately begged to be allowed to join in. Since Neji was used to working with her and trusted her, he had also asked she be allowed to accompany the patrol. Neji got the sense they had agreed to make the Hyuga member happy. That had made him smirk. Occasionally being a Hyuga was worth something. He deactivated his bloodline and turned to the captain. "I see nothing unusual within a 2-mile radius." The ANBU captain nodded. "All right, let's get moving again." They continued the long circuit all the way around the village. "We appreciate your help with this," Ibiki informed him. Inoichi shrugged. "Not a problem, my clan is always happy to help protect the village." Given their clan abilities, the Yamanaka had traditionally worked closely with the ANBU.
Inoichi was in fact one of the few men in the village to enjoy a friendly relationship with Hibiki. If Hibiki were a bit more honest, he might have even called the man a friend.
They were on the roof of ANBU headquarters.
There was an eagle in a large cage with collar attached to his neck. The collar possessed a radio communicator as well as a miniature camera. Inoichi formed a small square with his fingers framing the eagle.
Mind-body switch.
Inoichi's body went limp and was carefully caught and put in a chair by Hibiki.
One of his assistants opened the cage. The eagle hopped out and took off. The ANBU now had eyes in the sky.
Back at the stadium, the stands were full and there was a nervous feeling to the crowd. All sorts of rumors were running wild and it was impossible to know what was true and what was not. People knew there had been some sort of huge battle near the hospital yesterday between a Leaf Nin and a foreigner. But there had been no official statements released by the Hokage.
People had noticed that there were a lot more ANBU visible than normal.
And anyone living near the gates could fail to notice there were a lot more patrols going out than usual. With all these unusual events going on, people were more than happy to guess at their meaning.
These guesses soon turned into rumor, with the rumors taking on a life of their own.
There had been an assassination attempt in the hospital. No, there had been a murder. The attempt/murder had led to the fight outside the hospital. The assassin had been killed.
Had been captured. Had gotten away.
The assassin and Leaf Nin had killed each other. The captured assassin was in ANBU headquarters and had confessed to a plot to kill the Hokage, to kill Sasuke, to launch a surprise attack on the stadium. The assassin had been a Suna Nin, a Sound Nin, an undercover agent from Rock.
The Kazekage had fled the village after declaring war, had fled just ahead of pursuing ANBU, had been kidnapped by the ANBU in connection to a plot.
Orochimaru had been spotted in disguise trying to enter the stadium.
Orochimaru had been the assassin and was still at large.
Orochimaru had kidnapped/murdered Sasuke. Orochimaru was about to lead an army to attack the village. This was considered one of the most outrageous rumors and was one of the least believed. All these stories and many more were circulating through the crowd. No one could tell which stories were true, false, or had some truth to them. So, the crowd grew restless, their excitement tinged with fear.
Even up in the Hokage's private box it was easy to sense the mood. The people are nervous. Jiraiya commented. They have good reason to be. Sarutobi sighed. I wish it were not necessary to keep everything secret. But I cannot let our opposition guess at how much we know.
Jiraiya chuckled.
Besides, I doubt it would make them feel much better.
True, Sarutobi agreed. There was a sudden stir and the crowd suddenly became noticeably louder.
It seems the candidates are going out onto the field. They sure are.
Jiraiya counted the bodies and frowned.
I only count 6, shouldn't there be 7? Sarutobi looked concerned.
The one who is missing is Sasuke. He and Kakashi have been doing some sort of special training and have been out of contact for the last 2 weeks.
Jiraiya looked alarmed. He knew all about Orochimaru's interest in the last Uchiha and about that damn curse seal. You don't know where Sasuke and Kakashi are?
No, but I am certain they are both fine.
Sarutobi hesitated.
Though I will confess I had expected to hear from them before now. With everything else that was going on, the idea of Sasuke being ambushed during training was not far-fetched.
Hey Naruto, Shikamaru said.
Where the hell is that teammate of yours? I don't know, I haven't seen him since the preliminaries. But he'll definitely be here.
Naruto sounded very sure. How can you be so certain, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. Trust me, Hinata-chan, I know the team.
He wouldn't miss this for the world.
Naruto looked around. Speaking of missing people, where is that Dosu guy and where is Hey 8? Ganma approached them holding a small box. Dosu was no longer in the competition. I will be the proctor for the finals. Now since two competitors are no longer in the exam, it has been decided to reorder the matches. Each of you take a slip of paper from the box. Naruto and Hinata both looked at each other with the same thought running through their head. Shikamaru muttered that it was troublesome, but otherwise no one complained. Shino did not care who he fought. Tamari and Kankuro also cared nothing about how the matches turned out. So, each of them approached and took a number from the box. Now read your numbers out to me. I got 1. Kankuro said. I have the number 2. Shino said. 3, called out Tamari. 4, said Hinata. I'm 5. Naruto said. 7, Shikamaru mumbled through a yawn. Ganma nodded and quickly wrote the information down on a clipboard. That makes the absent Sasuke number 6. Alright, all of you listen up. The first match will be Kankuro vs Shino, second match Tamari and Hinata, the third match will be Naruto vs Sasuke, that's if he decides to show up, of course. Shikamaru will receive a first round bye and face the winner of the third match. Shikamaru grinned. Looks like I get to have a nice nap before I have to do anything. Now listen all of you, Ganma instructed them. The finals will follow the same rules and format as the preliminaries. So be aware that if I see one of you hopelessly beaten, I will step in and end the match. But for your own sake, don't count on me intervening. If you feel yourself to be beaten, forfeit. Keep in mind that you don't necessarily have to win a match to earn promotion. All you have to do is impress the judges. Now then, I want Kankuro and Shino to remain while the rest of you head up to the balcony. Actually, Kankuro spoke up. I'd like to go ahead and forfeit. Everyone but Tamari looked at him in surprise. The two of them had already discussed this and agreed that Crow could not be used since all his weapons were coated in poison. The match was pointless. Kankuro preferred to save his limited supply of ammunition for when it really mattered. Shino's eyebrows were jumping up and down in a rare display of emotion. Ganma was sending him a dire frown. What was that? Kankuro smiled. I said I forfeit. The proctor and the leaf neens were all looking at him with varying degrees of annoyance or anger. He didn't care, in a little while they'd all be dead anyway. With a disgusted shake of his head, Ganma announced the result of the first match being Shino's victory by forfeiture. Not too surprisingly, the crowd let loose a long cascade of boos. Feeling rather pleased with himself, Kankuro actually took a bow, which brought on louder boos. Sarutobi looked over to his student. Why would anyone go to all the trouble of reaching these finals only to forfeit? They wouldn't, Jiraiya replied. If making Chunin was their real goal. If there was something more important going on, then it would make perfect sense. A lifetime as both a spy and researcher had left the Sannin the ability to see underneath the underneath with ease. Sarutobi nodded his agreement. He took out a piece of paper and pen and scribbled down a message. He then signaled Reidu over and handed the scarred Jonin the message. Please deliver this to Ibiki in ANBU headquarters. Right away, Hokage-sama. Reidu immediately disappeared in a swirl of wind and leaves. The next scheduled match is Tamari vs Hinata. He looked at the blonde Kunoichi. You planning to forfeit too? She smiled and shook her head. No, I feel like fighting. She glanced at her watch. At least for 15 minutes. Ganma nodded. So good to know someone does. Alright, everyone but the combatants clear the field and go to the balcony. Before going, Naruto went over to his girl and gave her a big hug. Kick her ass, Hinata-chan. Blushing a bit, she nodded. I'll do my best, Naruto-kun, I won't hold back. In the stands, Hiashi had a clear view at the informal and intrusive way one of the other finalists had gone over and embraced his daughter. Who is that? Hiashi asked out loud. That is Uzumaki Naruto, Hiashi-sama.
One of his servants informed him. Hiashi stared at the arena floor to where the boy was leaving with the others.
Why is that boy giving Hinata such a vulgar display of emotion? And why did Hinata allow it?
His daughter's match was about to start.
He would concentrate on that for now.
But he would have questions for his daughter later. For this match Hinata was dressed in black ninja clothing. She had decided to leave her bulky jacket at home. She settled easily into her juken stance. Her father and Naruto were both watching and she wanted to make them proud.
She would go all out, no holding back. Her opponent eyed her with a good bit of respect.
Hinata certainly didn't look like much, but she was a Hyuga, and the Hyuga had a well-earned reputation for their gentle fist style.
Her gentle fist won't do her any good if she can't get near me.
It doesn't really matter whether I win or lose, I just need to keep her busy for another 13 minutes.
Danma raised his hand and then dropped it. Begin. Even as Hinata activated her Byakugan, Tamari leapt back and fully opened her fan. Great windstorm.
It was a powerful area attack designed to keep Hinata at a safe distance.
It worked as Hinata was struck by it and forced back.
She quickly realized she could not move forward in the face of such a strong winjutsu. She fell to one knee in order to brace herself and consider her options. She was no genius like Shikamaru or Neji, but she was intelligent and very observant. She noted that the entire edge of the arena floor had trees and other vegetation, providing good cover. Shu noticed that while the dirt in front of her was being thrown into the air, the dirt behind where Tamari was standing was still. Tamari's jutsu didn't have a 360-degree range of effect, it affected the direction she was facing. Hinata smiled as she came up with a very simple, but hopefully effective plan. Juken had shown her that when the direct path was denied you, there were other ways to reach your target. She performed some simple hand signs and was suddenly replaced by a log. Seeing her opponent perform a substitution, Tamari ended her jutsu, no point wasting valuable chakra.
She had a sharp mind and good eye as well.
Since they were forbidden from leaving the arena area, there was only one place she could be. The girl had to be hiding among the cover along the wall.
Tamari shook her head. If the girl wanted to drag things out, that was fine.
Heck, she could have a little bit of fun while she waited for the war to start.
You know, I've heard all about how strong and powerful the Hyuga are.
It's such a shame to see one of its members being such a coward.
Tamari called out loudly. Hearing this, the crowd booed. What did she just say? Naruto cried out. How dare she call Hinata a coward? Kankuro was still on the balcony and smirked at the blonde boy's tirade. Well, what do you expect, kid? She's hiding right now. That's not exactly brave behavior. Neither is forfeiting your match. Shino pointed out. Neither is attacking someone in a hospital bed.
Shikamaru said sharply. Or threatening a little kid half your size.
Naruto reminded him of their first meeting.
I don't want to hear anything from you about courage, since you obviously don't know anything about it.
Kankuro gave the three of them a hard smile. Hey now, sorry if I offended.
In 12 minutes, I am so going to enjoy killing all three of you. Suddenly and without warning, a dozen kunai came at her from all directions. Tamari dodged and saw a dozen Hinatas coming at her from every section of the wall. That's not a bad idea, but it won't work.
Great windstorm. She directed the jutsu towards half the targets.
Sure enough, 5 kept coming on as though completely unaffected by the wind. The 6th came to a halt and fell over.
You'll have to do better than that.
Since Bushins aren't affected by physical attack, only the real you would be knocked down.
Tamari said smugly.
Unless I ordered one of my Bushins to deliberately fall down. A voice right behind her said an instant before 6 palm strikes slammed into her back and sent her to the ground. And in that moment when she held the advantage, to Hinata's credit, she decided not to hold back. You are within the range of my attack, 8 trigrams 64 palms. With that she launched the specialized attack on her opponent and shut down all of her chakra points.
It was over. Tamari was defeated and could not continue. Winner, Hyuga Hinata. Ganma called out.
Hinata stood there basking in the glow of her victory and in the thundering applause from a partisan crowd. She looked up into the crowd and hoped both her father and Naruto were proud of her. In the stands Hiashi gave a satisfied nod. Truly she is worthy of her place as both my daughter and clan heir.
Oh yeah. Hinata-chan, you are so awesome. Kuramaru came to a sudden halt. I smell something.
Tsume sniffed the air herself.
I've got it, maybe 12 cents I've never picked up in the village before. Whoever they are, they're strangers.
There's more, like his pup Akamaru. Kuramaru had the ability to smell chakra. They're doing something that involves a monstrous amount of chakra.
Well then let's go pay them a visit.
The ANBU captain with the rabbit mask called yet another halt and asked Neji to again scout out the area. Despite the mounting monotony, he obeyed.
He took a look at what was around them. And all of a sudden he wasn't bored anymore. I see Suna ninjas. There are dozens, no, hundreds of them.
All within a mile and a half of us and heading towards the village.
Are you absolutely sure they are enemy ninja? Captain Anzo asked. Bringing that many ninja this close to Konoha without permission was a blatant act of war. I am positive I can read the symbols on their Hittites. How far away are they, how many are there, and what direction are they moving in? Neji did a quick count. I count 300 within my sight.
They are about a mile and a half due west of us and they're moving northwest, almost straight for the gates. Outstanding Neji, Anzo quickly got on the general frequency. He was sure these 300 were only part of a much larger force. This is Patrol 7 to all units, I am declaring sun rays down, I repeat I am declaring sun rays down.
300 confirmed sector H114 moving northwest. What do we do now? Ten asked.
She hadn't honestly expected to be fighting in a war when she got up this morning.
Now
we haul ass back to the village and get ready to fight like hell.
And that was exactly what they did.
Ibiki was watching on a television monitor as Inoichi was flying over the eastern approaches to the village. He thought he spotted something. He hit the send button for the radio communicator on the collar.
Inoichi, could you go down and sweep past that clearing?
Over the transmitter came a loud squawk in reply and the eagle immediately flew down lower. Ibiki soon had a clear view.
Oh, hell no. There were dozens of sound ninja in their weird cow-spotted uniforms. One of them spotted the eagle and the metal collar around his neck.
In the next instant there were a dozen kunai flying in and then no picture. Inoichi grunted in pain and sat up quickly coughing up blood.
Damn, I barely broke the connection in time. Inoichi said. You alright? Ibiki asked. Just fine, did you see them?
I sure as hell did.
Ibiki said grimly. Did you see them as well, Hokage-sama? Inoichi asked. Sarutobi nodded. I certainly did, there seems to be no doubt now. As if to confirm those words, an ANBU entered the room. Hokage-sama, we have just received an alert from Patrol 7.
They report a force of 300 Suna nin heading towards the gates.
They declared, sun rays down. Sarutobi nodded, he was feeling strangely calm now that the moment had come. Sun rays down was the code phrase meaning Konoha was under attack.
They have chosen war, and Kami alone knows how it will end.
He looked at Ibiki. Sound the alarm, contact all ANBU and other active units. Inform them to put Defense Plan 4 into operation. Hi, Hokage-sama.
Sarutobi readied himself to face war again with the certainty he had done all that he could to prepare his village. A dozen Suna ninja were just beginning the summoning ritual when a hail of kunai and shuriken slaughtered half of them. 2 kunai with explosive notes landed in the middle of the large summoning circle and detonated, completely destroying the intricate runes that had been drawn.
You won't be summoning anything today, Sume shouted.
She bared her teeth and led the way as they attacked with the kind of ferocity that only Inuzuka defending their home could show. The Sarutobi sitting in the Hokage's box suddenly disappeared with a puff of smoke. Jiraiya knew exactly what that meant.
Crap, and I was going to do some research later too.
He disappeared in a swirl of wind and leaves. Almost immediately, the sirens began to sound. They went off with 3 short blasts, paused for 10 seconds, and repeated the pattern.
Are those the sirens? Naruto asked. Is this a drill? Shikamaru glared at him, for once seeming totally alert and ready to act. Naruto Yubaka, that signal means invasion imminent.
The village is about to be attacked.
Tamari was still down on the arena floor helpless, with Hinata and Ganma standing over her. Damn it! Kankuro leapt off the balcony and raced to try and rescue his sister. Hey! Where do you think you're going? Naruto leapt out after him with Shino and Shikamaru following.
In the stands, confusion reigned.
The Leaf Nines began leaving the stands to help man the defenses.
Seeing this, some of the hidden sound agents decided to attack them even without a genjutsu to help. The sight of enemy ninja in their midst sent people screaming and stampeding in all directions. The Leaf Nines, meanwhile, all of them, promptly attacked the Sound Nines who did not have the advantage of surprise or of numbers. Seeing their comrades fighting for their lives, the remaining Sound Nines shed their disguises and joined in.
Hearing the sirens signal invasion imminent, Kabuto asked for the check.
The tea and cake had been excellent and he only thought it right that he pay for them. Hinata and Ganma were both surprised as Kankuro grabbed his sister and faced off against them. Baki was quickly at his side while Naruto, Shino, and Shikamaru stood beside their fellow Leaf Nines. Naruto looked up at the stands to see the madness going on there.
What the hell is happening? It's called War, Naruto. Ganma answered grimly.
Listen up, you 4, I'm afraid the exams are over.
I'm assigning you all a mission.
Yes? Shikamaru asked as he readied to cast his jutsu. This is your mission, kill every ninja you see without the leaf Hittite.
Starting with these 3 right here.
Brave words.
Kankuro shouted. If you value your lives, surrender, otherwise we will fight to kill. Ganma stated. All 4 of the prospective Chunin looked ready to carry out the threat.
No, Baki answered simply and readied to attack with his deadliest jutsu. And just at that moment, in the space directly between the 2 groups, Kakashi and Sasuke materialized.
Kakashi noted the standoff and the chaos in the stands as well as the blaring of the siren.
He rubbed the back of his neck and looked at Ganma.
Did we come at a bad time? That's it for this reading.
Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfiction.
Looking forward to having you on board again.